So we're calling the meeting to order at 5:03, and this is a special meeting for COVID discussion. So, Tom, do you want to go first?
Yep. And I'll stick with my normal presentation. I'll do the state things first, and then the local. So just to bring everybody up to speed, as of 1 o'clock this afternoon, Vermont had 759 positive cases, 58 of which are within Windham County, and 30 deaths, unfortunately, throughout the state. At this point, as of 2 o'clock this afternoon, actually, I'm sorry, 11 o'clock this morning, the governor, as well as the health department, are cautiously optimistic that even though the total numbers continue to rise, the individual daily increase in positive cases is starting to decline. So they're cautiously optimistic that things are going to plateau shortly. And then the expectation beyond that is for a decline in the numbers. The reason that the governor is stressing the term cautiously optimistic is what he is and his cabinet are, what they are very, very concerned about is that once the general public sees that there's a plateau, and certainly there's a slight decline, that people will let their guard down, so to speak, and just go back to what they're used to as normal, what was normal before all of this. If that happens, then what's being predicted is there'll be a significant spike in a significant surge in the number of positive cases. So the governor is stressing that neither he nor any of us can let our guard down, and though his next steps are to explore the best ways to open things up, open up the economy again, and return to, or begin to return to a new normal, a new baseline, and how that's best accomplished, and what guidance / directives will still be in place, or new guidance and directives will come about in order to prevent that second wave or that second surge. Everything right now in his executive order is still maintained, will still be in place until May 15th. And then we'll see what happens from there. So that's it in a nutshell as far as the state's concerned. Any questions or anything there? Okay. As far as locally, as far as we're concerned, as of the end of last week, after our meeting last week, any planning that we needed that was left to do is done. All of our plans are in place to be executed if, in the event there is a sudden unexpected surge or spike, and we do things as we'll need to. We still have daily are working with some different citizens in town regarding mental health issues. We're actually pulling in still different clergy members and different therapists that we have at our disposal, and that's going well. Not, to this point, we've not had to transport anybody emergently for a mental health related issue, so that's good. So at this point, we're just kind of status, just doing what we do. The next thing on the plate is for us to begin to look at the recovery phase and see, using what information we have already, start to put some plans together for what things are going to look like down the road for us. What planning we might need to do us in the event that of a second wave or second surge if things don't go as planned. And then above and beyond that, start to look at applying what we've learned from all of this thus far over the last however many weeks. Applying that to and integrating those things within existing policies, plans, etc., creating some new plans and policies surrounding this, as well as infrastructure needs. And I've been talking with Karen a fair amount about municipal wide, what those things might look like and what might be needed and would certainly be appropriate. So all that will keep going for the next several weeks, months. So that's that.
I have a question for you, Tom.
Absolutely.
So we've gotten through the planning stage, which is
Yep.
usually the first step.
Yep.
Then it's the recovery.
Response and then recovery. Yep. So we're still in the response phase.
Okay.
We're just starting because we here right now today we can. We're just starting to look at that recovery phase, the beginning recovery of the recovery phase, and what things might begin to look like and what we need to plan for within that.
Okay. So do you think we're at a good place?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And your experience locally, call volume wise, Tom, is average?
Again, regionally, statewide, and within our mutual aid directly mutual aid system, call volume is way down for everybody. Right now, we're down about 90 calls from where we typically are.
That was actually a lead into a question that I had for you. I've heard that car accidents are way down right now, which makes sense to me.
Absolutely.
So you're getting less of your regular calls.
Yep. We're unfortunately, not unfortunately, fortunately, we're getting less of everything right now. Everybody is.
Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not. It's not.
Just a side note, Putney Mutual Aid has 2 more counselors to send your way, and they'll be reaching out soon to get them connected with you. They don't have
one woman and one gentleman, is that correct?
Potentially, they may have already connected to you.
Okay, I know I talked with a woman who had reached out to me late last week by email. We emailed back and forth, and I urged her to sign up. So I hope she's one of them.
Yeah, she may very well be.
Okay,
I avoid the names like the plague.
right.
So, thank you for that report. I'm really pleased to see some of the work that you and Karen have been putting into place regarding like digitalizing more records through the town. And in thinking about what it would look like if we had to move our town hall to the fire department at some point, I really appreciate that you're starting to. I know that we've been thinking that way for a long time, but that this has prodded that action. And I'm curious, like where you're seeing big holes right now. And I guess that's a question for both you and Karen.
I think getting the two buildings, and Karen, you might have a different thought, but I think getting the 2 buildings connected, so that at either location we can access different databases. We can access all of our calendars are synced, all of our emails are accessible. All the technology that hopefully will become available to us, will be in both places. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think it's critical that technology, that we're all connected. It's the fire department, the highway department, town hall.
Mhm.
Also, telephones are critical.
Mhm.
You know, like Tom and I and Brian all have cell phones. Everybody uses a cell phone, but if we don't have that service, we need like, you know, a backup system. And
Mhm.
Tom and I have already discussed some options. We've been in contact with our telephone person, and all service, we have a contract. We will have a contract with them beginning July 1st. They will be our new computer IT people, and Tom already uses them. The other, the library needs to be connected too, because the way we're doing things,
Right.
you know, cybersecurity, the whole 9 yards. But right now, it's so awkward trying to, you know, all have a conversation together, you know? So at any time, I want to be able to get a hold of Tom or, you know, Brian, you know, and they need to do the same thing with me, you know, and right now we're relying on cell phones.
And also along with that, should at any, I mean, this could happen anytime. If town hall needs to relocate to the firehouse for any amount of time, certainly greater than a 1 or 2 day time frame, then the town hall staff, they still need to be able to conduct business like normal. And right now there's no way that they could.
No.
As far as the ability for phone calls, emails, access to databases, that kind of thing.
So I think the town manager's office and administrative assistant could continue working. It'd be a little clunky, but what my concern is the town clerk's office.
Mhm.
So all the land records are in the safe. So I have proposed to Jonathan to look into getting all the land records online, like Brattleboro. Because if anything ever happened to the town hall, we wouldn't be able to access that vault. And that's all history in there.
Mhm.
And having everything online would allow us to be like at the fire station and still be able to do our jobs.
Or allow you to go into isolation and still be able to do your job. No.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's great.
The other thing too, Laura, is we're still working on payments, you know, for services. So we already have the credit card established. We're going to get ACH where people can do like a bill pay and just make like tax payments and utility payments. I believe, and Jonathan would have to look into this, but some towns are doing dog licenses online. And I know with fishing and hunting licenses, it's all online, you know? So that might become a new way, you know, less person-to-person contact. Not that we want that, but
if it becomes necessary.
I think it's good to have built into the system.
yes.
Yeah, redundancy, definitely. I think, honestly, well, I mean, we'd have to look at, do you have any sense, Karen, scale of hardware necessarily for this kind of change, or is a lot of this software and reprogramming? Do you know?
We talked to All Service a little bit because I told them what I was looking to do. Because one thing, the fire station cannot even get to the network. Okay. So everything that Tom is doing is totally isolated to the fire station. And I don't even know what that looks like, which if something happens to Tom, that means we're going to be down there on his computer, because we cannot see his computer. So he needs to be connected to town hall. And
just, Karen, if I might butt in there just real quick.
Sure.
Another thing that would be critical is to be able to access our network over the internet, which is possible. In my car, I've got a mobile router. Some of the apparatus will have mobile routers and either laptops or tablets in them. So if we're out, or even if the firehouse, if we can't function out of there for a certain time frame, at least we can still have access to everything we need to have access to. So that would be built in as well.
Right.
And I think as far as redundancy is concerned, it would make a world of sense to have the library have the same access to.
Yes.
For you, Tom, for example, if you had to move your incident command location or emergency operation location, the library would probably be much better suited to that than town hall. So I think we should certainly be looking at that. We're going to have to do we're just going to have to get estimates on what it's going to cost and see whether it's realistic. And, I think that what would make sense as far as that's concerned is to think about a range, what's the least expensive way we could do this, and then what's the ideal way we could do it, and what's the happy medium if there is one, because I think that this has certainly highlighted the fact that big things do happen, and that we need to be prepared for that. But of course, the nature of this is very different, and could be anything. I mean, for example, a hazmat incident right in front of the fire station, and you're knocked out. That's a big deal.
Right.
Well, yeah. So we were thinking also too, like voice over IP. So if a phone call comes into any department, it automatically goes to the email.
Can be redirected. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, if we had another Irene, Josh, and I was in Newfane and couldn't get to the office, I mean, that would not be a good situation.
Yeah.
So we're already looking at it. I mean, we had Marty from Southern Vermont Telephone give us a price on a setup for the town hall and the fire department, and actually plugging Brian in too.
And was that including hardware, or was that just the network component of it?
It's all of the hardware, and Tom has part of it already at the station.
Yeah.
So he's going to build it around that. And it's going to be similar to the Brattleboro Fire Department, what they're doing. And we will have to contact the internet provider, but we got that from the other vendor too. So they'll do all the wiring and get us the equipment, and then we have to go out and get the internet provider to actually just hook it up.
And as Josh said, that would be we should really go after the library, the highway department, the fire department, and the town hall. It also makes sense to me that under some emergencies, the library may be the better approach for town hall to relocate to.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, the beauty of the library, more than, equivalent to the fire department, but access is fantastic.
Right.
Access, there's parking, there's a lot of compelling reasons to have the library be a viable backup plan for either location. I would say, from my perspective, communication with the highway department is useful. Beyond that, that building, that's not a realistic location to do much other than run a highway department out of. I mean,
Right.
I suppose
Makes
as a
sense.
last resort, potentially, but I would say, investment wise, probably minimizing that so that we can communicate with the highway department, but that it's not assumed to be a location we would relocate to.
Right.
Just one thing to keep in mind with that is should something occur at the firehouse, that's where we're going to be
Is that the highway department?
temporarily at the highway department.
Is
With
that
your-
for equipment purposes or?
That would be for essentially for everything.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Keeping it to a minimum what we would absolutely need, but theoretically we could have everything end up over there.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Also, I mean, just, again, if you take, for example, a hazmat incident, something that happens in front of the library and is large scale, that's going to knock out the fire department, the library, and town hall. So, having the highway department as a more remote possibility. I mean, I think we just have to be really thoughtful, though, about the financial implications of something
Right.
like. So I think we'd need to put it out to bid to a number of different people, and again, have a real range of what we're looking at.
Curious, have we ever considered talking to, and I guess this would go to like worst case scenario, but have we ever considered talking to one of the schools, seriously thinking about Landmark as being a backup site?
I was thinking that too.
A backup site for
For relocation. So, for example, worst case scenario, we were cut off transportation wise for some reason to the highway department and something. I mean, obviously, this is pretty far fetched, but it also seems like there may be that Landmark might be a more suitable location for us in many ways as a backup location.
we could look at that.
Is that really out there? Like,
My hesitation would be surrounding if the campus is occupied.
Right.
yeah, understandable.
But, the location, for example, where they did that testing,
Mhm.
that's not a bad site for a relatively remote location for you that could have access to buildings, bathrooms, so on and so forth if necessary, and not have a tremendous amount of impact on the campus, but it might be worth considering.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that we have a good enough relationship with certainly Landmark, Putney School. I think that if push came to shove and we had to think about something like that, as long as we had the flexibility, like Tom said, a vehicle with a laptop in it kind of thing.
Mhm.
And obviously it's more than that, but, just having alternatives is probably not a bad idea.
And I also think, as we are seeing through this, that in times of crisis, folks in this community come together really quickly and are willing to adapt. And we could probably change strategy pretty quickly, but it's nice to play it all out before it happens.
Yeah.
So as far as like, it feels like you're on a really great track as far as records go and assuring that services continue. Have you found through any of the departments that, including the highway department, that there are any major concerns about needs that aren't being met at this point? I guess that would be to either Tom or Karen.
No,
No.
That's the general consensus from the community. I think that you're both doing a bang up job.
Yeah, and Brian's, he's been working the roads and he's been very cautious too with his guys.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was good.
If it's raining, they're home. They're not hanging out at the garage, they're home.
Good.
Karen, I think that was just today that clarification on highway department stuff came through. I found that helpful, and I think that's helpful for you just in giving you clear guidance as to how you should be assuming they are doing their duties, which is just nice to have.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, I was aware of the state, putting everything on hold, all their projects. So to see this information today, and things change daily.
Of course, yeah.
And when I
Karen,
read
along with that,
this,
did you see the email exchange or exchanges and the clarification on road maintenance?
yes,
That's
Yeah,
what
that's what we're talking about.
yeah,
Okay.
yep. Yeah, that was surprising, Tom, to me.
Well, there was a clarification within that. Questions were raised about specifically about grading roads.
Yep,
Okay, all
yep.
right.
Which
Tom,
is,
are you getting the full support that you need at this point? Are you,
Yep.
have your hours gone down a little bit, even a little bit?
Yep,
Okay.
Yep.
I had mentioned this previously. Tom and I certainly had the conversation, but I think I mentioned it to everybody that I received as a gift from a previous Putney school parent a box of masks, 2,000 masks.
Holy smokes.
They are not N95s. They are procedure masks. They're the masks that are typical for good for people who are sort of out and about.
Surgical masks.
Well, yeah, procedure masks. Yeah, exactly. The sort of flat ones that don't draw.
Yep.
Tom, you have a bunch of those already?
We do, but we'll certainly take more.
Okay.
And to be honest, a big piece of this, looking ahead, is, and again, hindsight's 2020. We learn from everything that we do.
Yeah.
So a piece of it is going to include us maintaining, not going overboard, but maintaining a fairly decent stock of disposables.
Yes.
From
Yeah,
this,
I agree.
so certainly anything that we can get a hold of that we could hang on to after this is over with, would be huge in getting us set for that.
Okay. Well, we should think about that. The other thing, and Laura, you might be better suited to feel this one out. I think it would be nice if at least a significant portion of these became available and I can make phone calls, but the mutual aid group, if we had 500 available to them to distribute to people who need a mask and don't have one, I think that would be a great use for them. So, I could touch, and I was thinking maybe through the food shelf, hey, if you're getting a food delivery, here's 3 masks in your bag with it too, just in case, So I think we might as well distribute some if there's a need for them. And again, they're not, they're the masks that are recommended to wear if you're out, essentially to prevent spread more than anything else.
Yep.
But I have a lot of them. So
That's amazing. Don't tell people where you live right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is one of the public calls to action has been to ask that the food shelf and Tom and different folks that are out in the community are actually carrying extras on them and distributing them.
Yep.
That they're going into the food shelf bags. And we do have an amazing amount of people locally that are making fabric masks and getting them out there. But the disposables are hugely needed too. So I think that the Putney Food Shelf is working closely with Putney Mutual Aid, and getting them to them might be the best bet.
Okay.
emailing Hannah and
Yeah.
offering them through them, and then whatever you and Tom come to an agreement on of like what should go to the fire department and what should go to the food shelf, I think is really appropriate.
We should also probably, in our next, whatever our messaging is, unless, Tom, you want to hang on to these more, I think we could message that we have masks available, touch base with either Tom or the food shelf if you need,
Yeah, absolutely. That the priority at this point is to get them out to people.
Exactly.
We don't need to hoard them. So we've got what I think that we're gonna need. So
No, and I mean, as far as that stockpile is concerned with these, 2,000 is a lot of masks. Of course, in a time like this, you can go through 2,000 masks pretty quickly. And these are disposable, but they're good quality disposable. There's certainly that somebody who's cautious could use it regularly for an indefinite period of time.
Right.
Just so.
It's really about how you handle them.
Yes, exactly.
And I can't, I assume, Tom, that you're doing this, but like mask education is super important. I know that we're doing a lot of mask education with our people at Groundworks. Like, don't touch the face of it and handle it by the ear straps, and don't pull it down like this to talk, or put it up over your head, or any of the many silly things that people just don't know any better. So it's, making sure that you're not contaminating yourself with making sure that the outside is always going to the outside. And sorry, I just gave a little mask lesson. But that's amazing, Josh. Thank whoever donated that. Please make sure that they get an enormous amount of gratitude from us.
I will do that, definitely. The
Thank
one
you
thing
so much.
to do, and I'll get this to you before next week, Karen. She just asked that we have, and she drafted something because they did the same thing for the Putney School group. It's basically a waiver of liability. That it's a donation. That they, by donating, are not accepting any responsibility for the efficacy or anything else. So, and I figured we could just do that in open session. We can. That would be good. So I'll look into distributing those a little bit, and Tom, I will make sure that you have at least some now, but that any that are left over will make sure.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Again, the priority is to get them out to people. So
yeah.
And since we're having this conversation, I don't think it came up in our last meeting. Maybe it did. Things are starting to blur, but I know that it was promoted over social media that you got a UV light and you're able to essentially sanitize N95s.
that's right.
For so many times.
Right. Exactly.
That's really exciting. I'm glad that. How did you acquire that?
We bought it through. I've forgotten who the vendor was that we bought it through. And it was a lot less expensive than I had envisioned them to be. So it worked out fine. It's good.
That's fantastic. I commend you for having the foresight to do that.
Believe me, it wasn't me. It was a couple of our folks that researched it and took care of it all. So cool. I had nothing to do with it other than say go get it.
Yeah. Well,
your job.
Good for having good people.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Are we? I feel like we're in, as you said, we're kind of in the response phase, and we talked a little bit about planning for recovery. Does the select board want to talk about planning for financial recovery at this point?
Can I just comment that, so the state has now declared, a state of emergency. So public assistance is now open. And I've been going through some webinars, and I'll be looking at that this week.
Right.
But there's only certain things that are reimbursable. And I don't know if you saw the email that I sent everyone.
Yes.
But I'm thinking our EOC, Emergency Operations Center, whatever Tom is doing there, most of that's going to be reimbursable. Anything outside of that is going to be tough for reimbursement. So some in overtime too, Tom.
Mhm.
So, if you guys are, working more hours than they normally do,
Yeah.
it's going to be hard because they're on call.
Right.
But we need to try to track some of that.
Yep, absolutely.
But,
That's all been tracked right along, and so we can account for everything minute by minute if we need to.
Yeah, good. Like the UV machine, the
Yep.
shower that you just did.
Yep.
Decontaminating shower.
Yep.
All your PPEs, all that stuff.
Yep.
But the thing that we can't reimburse for is teleworking from home. We cannot, hazard pay absolutely won't be reimbursed. That only came up once in the very beginning. So it won't come up. If it comes up again, it'll, we just can't reimburse for it. Let's see what else. If somebody's sent home, any sick time, let's say somebody's quarantined, that sick time cannot be reimbursed.
Even if it goes beyond their regular allotted sick time?
Yeah, it just says, let me see. Yeah, I don't know how I would deal with that, Josh. I hope I don't have to get to that
No.
point.
No, I mean, I would assume that it would be that they were expected to use up their available sick time, and then beyond that would be reimbursable. But I have no idea. I'm guessing this is all likely to evolve some as time passes too. But
I think it will. So
All
this
right.
is how,
Typically, the initial guidance comes out, and then once a lot of questions are raised, then some things begin to be modified because it was stuff initially and originally wasn't thought of specifically.
Yeah.
So I would assume it's gonna be the same trend here.
yeah,
That's
and
comforting.
I would think that, even if we're not, if there are things, Karen, that you think should be reimbursable that are currently not listed as reimbursable, we should probably keep them in a file somewhere just so that if it comes around, I mean, the main thing about all of this stuff is just documentation until the cows come home.
right.
And in some respects, typically, some of it will revolve around how that documentation is specifically worded.
Yeah.
As to whether it's in or it's out.
Yeah.
If it's one of those gray areas,
Right.
just get a little creative, and it'll slide in.
That leads to a question I had for you when you were talking about staffing hours. Are you designating them as COVID-19 hours when folks are coming in
Yeah.
specifically to do work for COVID-19?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
And
We're doing that with the highway department and in the town hall too, Laura. So it's clear that if you're working from home, you're to track your hours if you're doing town work. Anything, if you're not working on town stuff, then we're putting it towards COVID.
Okay.
Get out of here.
and also, just so you know, Laura and Karen, for that matter, all of our responses that we have to follow the COVID protocol, or that are the responses that are brought about that are linked to the pandemic, i.e. the mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
We're tracking all of those too, so that separately, so that those will be reimbursable.
Excellent.
So something else too, Laura, I want to bring up, and I'll probably talk to Tom more about this, but so when we had the testing site at Landmark, I know our deputy sheriff was up there, and that's not part of our actual contract.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of expense like that, I got to look at to see if we can get reimbursed for that.
It looked like through that email you sent out that it should be, but
Right.
I only skimmed it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we would be reimbursed for that, or that reimbursement should be sought after by the sheriff's office.
That's what I would think. But we might want to motivate that because they may have less motive to do that than we do if we're paying the bill.
And if I'm remembering correctly, Karen, didn't you very specifically say that we weren't going above our hours at this point and we wanted them to put it through themselves?
I talked to Sheriff Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
See, they don't get funding. They don't get funding so they would have to fight for that money. So we'll end up paying the invoice. And then I'm going to have to turn around and try to get that paid. And we can do it because it's listed right here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an emergency measure, security and law enforcement, overtime labor for temporary facilities. So given that was a testing site requested by the state of Vermont,
Seems pretty clear.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I touched on that I met with the Neighbors Helping Neighbors Putney Mutual Aid earlier today, and they are planning on putting out sandwich boards. They're trying to do low-tech outreach, which is really amazing, and I'm very grateful to them for it because, as we know, we do have many community members that either don't have access for a plethora of reasons or are unable to use high-tech communication apparatuses. So they are planning on putting out sandwich boards, and they asked if the town or if you, Tom, had any specific messaging that you would want either put directly on those boards, keeping in mind that there's limited space.
Right.
They are getting a Google phone number, so people would be able to call in that have low tech abilities and get directed to all of the same ways they're directing now. So it could either just be their Google phone number up on that sandwich board, and if somebody called in with a mental health need, they could say, here's the number to the fire station. Or do you want the fire department phone number listed on that as well? And you don't have to answer me now, too. You can take time to think about it.
I'll think about it. I'll touch base with you tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
And Karen, did you have any feelings about sandwich boards and what they should look like?
No.
Okay.
I mean, we have one right out front that we can utilize.
They're planning on having, so the food shelf prints posters and staples them to, they have about 5 boards that they use and place strategically around town when they have something big going on, like top the truck. So they're planning on using the same system that they use at that point. But if you wanted to change your board to reflect their messaging, they would probably appreciate that.
Right. Yeah, I can work with them with that board.
Great.
It might be, I don't know what the avenue for this would be, Laura, but that might be a good way to get out news that there are some masks available.
Oh, that's a good point too. I'll make sure to email them tonight and let them know that you're the contact. Is it okay for me to put you down as the contact person
That's
for
fine.
that? Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm getting used to you being upside down.
It's my bat background, you know.
That's how this whole thing started.
I know.
Eliminating the idea grounded, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Uplifted.
Thank you for doing that for us, Josh, or for me at least. Anybody have anything else?
I got a question for you, Tom. this is maybe going backwards a little bit, but if I look at the numbers, it looks like between 1 and 0.2% of the population of the state are actually positive. And because it's over 600,000 people and 750 people are tested positive. Any idea how many other, what's the estimate of what positive cases we don't know about? Is it 10 times that, or any idea?
There isn't. All we know is that there are many more.
Okay.
That we just don't know about because the testing hasn't been there.
So it seems like that leaves us really vulnerable because there's a lot of people that haven't been exposed.
Yep.
And if that's the case, that we're really vulnerable, even as you were saying earlier, and these numbers come down, what is we're looking at, social distancing and this stuff for some time.
Yep, I'm sure.
Until we get a vaccine or something that would alter that.
Right.
So are there any ideas? I know we're in the response mode right now, not the recovery mode, but is there any talk about how things might change once those numbers come down, if at all?
Not really.
Okay.
It just, that hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
I know it's being thought about at the state level.
Mhm.
I know still the New England governors, as well as the governor of New York, are working very, very closely together.
Mhm.
To help ensure that when the time comes, we're all on the same page in doing things alike, not exactly the same, but similar in a lot of respects. So, but again, none of that has come out yet.
So I'll tell you why I'm asking, and I don't know if that will help or not, or change anything, or maybe it's just a seed for you to think about. But I spent some time this last week talking to people who are growing and raising food, and their concerns are that the farmers markets are closed, and they're the margins of profit on growing food are so small to begin with.
Right. Yep.
And New Hampshire is handling it very differently than Vermont. They're telling their farmers markets to stay open. And a lot of these people are calling me and texting me and emailing me saying, we're not going to stay in business if we can't sell our product. And
right.
I'm not the guy to know how to do this over the internet. I am an internet.
Right.
Okay.
I know specific to farmers markets, the governor is looking at it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's being revisited, and
legislators took it to him for consideration.
Yeah, I even wrote a letter to the governor about it. It's definitely being reconsidered, and he's talking to farmers market kind of community leaders about how they could stay open and safe.
And another, thank you. And another thought is there any way we can facilitate them moving their product without it being a farmer's market?
Karen's on that. Karen's so on that.
The other thing I want to mention.
A little bit, but yeah.
What was that, David?
We talked a little bit last Friday about this, but not again since.
No, and I got David involved too. He's doing a really good job reaching out to a lot of people, getting people to fill out the survey.
Yay!
We came up with that list, but it's a work in progress. And I think too, I was going to ask Laura about, so what's the status with Michael Maricki and Jeanette White and Nodder? Are they pursuing what we're pursuing, for the farmer's market?
So I know that Mike's been a huge advocate. Nodder has been speaking to it as well. And they are going to be having a community meeting, I believe, on Saturday. If you bear with me, I can find the exact time of it. But they're going to be holding an info session this weekend where they'll answer questions like that.
That's a Zoom or
yes. Yeah, when I say meeting now, I don't even mean it in the sense of the way we used to say it. I can get you the exact time on that. Hold on.
Not only the
10 to 11.
10 to 11.
Yes, and I can send the link to you all. so that everybody, I think it would be great if we all participated, if we were
Right.
able to.
If we do that, we need to be careful because then we're gonna have to warn
Oh,
at the meeting.
that's true.
On Saturday, you said 10 to 11?
Yeah, it's Saturday, 10 to 11. I had planned to participate, but if the two of you want to, then, I mean, maybe we just warn it.
We could, although I would think this would be one of those exceptions, Karen. I mean, if we're if we're not conversing with each other and we all happen to be at the same meeting at the same time, I'm pretty sure that's legitimate. But
Well, and frankly, it's very clear that we're not having discussion about town business amongst each other because we'll be in a big Zoom chat. So
Right.
everybody will know exactly what we're saying and that we're not talking amongst each other.
yeah, I would not worry about that from a legal standpoint. But if it wouldn't hurt to warn it if we think we're going to be there. I don't know what Saturday looks like for me, but sounds like an interesting topic.
Right.
I know it's really difficult for me. I have two guys coming to come logging with me on Saturday, but I could maybe take an hour away. I had another thought I wanted to share. We're really lucky in this community that we have so many resources. We have so many people that grow food and raise food in this community. And if we're going to be in a position that we're doing social distancing for some time to come, I think we need to think seriously about keeping those people in business, if for no other reason, for our own well-being. And so looking at it from a slightly selfish standpoint, what can we do to keep them selling their product and keep them in business? I mean, I know we need to follow the rules and keep people safe and healthy and social distance. I get that. I take that seriously. But we need these people not throwing their food away because they can't sell it. So can we store it? What can we do? I mean, what are the other ideas around it?
So, David, can I make a suggestion? I wrote a pretty lengthy letter to the governor, and I suggest that we each reach out to him and share our perspectives on this. I've seen really excellent leadership from him, and I think that he's open to hearing from the public. But additionally, I love the way you're thinking. Can we talk to the school? Can we talk to the schools that aren't operational right now that have huge kitchens and huge storage areas and walk-in coolers and see if we can help them partner up? And maybe there's an opportunity to do that through the survey that Karen has put together.
Green Mountain has these huge storage rooms that are empty of apples now. I mean, can we store food in that? I mean,
Right.
What can we do?
Yeah. I don't know if we can do it. And Josh, you know more of the technical answers on this than I do. I don't know if we as a select board can do this, but can we facilitate this happening? Can we connect people to help make this happen? I think that's probably an absolute yes.
I mean, I think part of the challenge, well, yeah, I think we can definitely try and help facilitate it. That's probably mostly better left to private sector, just because if we can help make the connections, I'm sure they're reaching out to each other, but, harvest is a long way away for many people. Of course, there are exceptions. I mean, I saw the milk delivery truck up at Putney School the other day, and I was thinking, I hope that milk ends up somewhere viable, because I know for a lot of people it isn't, which is terrible. But, a lot of the farmers, as David said, I mean, their margins are so small. This is also, even just eking out a little bit at this time of year is tremendous because they've been hungry for months,
Well, I'm hearing something a little different than that from a bunch of them, in that these next few weekends are huge for their year because a lot of them don't just sell the product, they're selling the plant too. And
right.
On the shares.
They have greenhouses full of greens that are coming in, and those are high profit products for them because seeds and just sat in the greenhouse, and then all of a sudden it's $10 a pound for a bag of greens or whatever. These next few weekends are huge.
Yeah, no, that's
Howie Cusack all these guys got on the phone and talked to me for hours. And they're like, we need to move this stuff now. This is, we don't get this, the rest of the year is, really difficult to come back. So it's not just harvest time. It's now too.
And David, they rely on the farmers market for that movement. Is that what you're telling us?
Absolutely. Because they're working their butts off growing this stuff right now. Saturday morning for 4 to 6 hours, Sunday mornings for 4 to 6 hours, they move it all. And then they go back to work.
And I mean, for example, with Paul Harlow, typically they go to New York, or they are part of a group that goes to New York. They can't do that. So how to distribute that food? Yeah, no, I agree with you, David. I mean, I think that these early weekends, for Howie in particular, movement of plants, but for somebody like Mike or Paul, movement of
Jack Van, those guys.
Greens. Yeah, no, and Jack, actually, I heard the other day, Jack was saying, he's allowed, because it's food product, to sell some of his plant starts, but he's not allowed to sell any of his decorative, his flowers and things, because it's not technically an essential. So it's like, that's a tough situation to be in. But
that's agriculture.
Hey, guy, just 1 second. I really do want to keep continuing this conversation. I think it's a very important conversation for us to have. And I also recognize that it may not be as important to Chief Goddard. And if Chief Goddard would like to get going, we could let him go at this point probably and continue our meeting.
I appreciate it.
So you are welcome to get going, unless anybody has another question for him specifically.
You need a bag of fresh greens?
Yes, buy your greens, buy your plants. I'm going to go buy a bunch of plants because my dog destroyed mine. So.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Tony, thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you.
All right, man, absolutely.
Oh, okay, he's gone.
You're still upside down, Josh. You moved to the middle, but you're still upside down.
I can balance it for everybody.
Everybody home, ready? Maybe we can get upside down too.
Bring levity. I love it. So,
yeah, I think that the unfortunate thing, I mean, David was sort of alluding, with these early crops, even if they're small, they're valuable because they're bringing an income that hasn't been there for many, many months. The other problem is they're highly perishable. Yeah. I mean, greenhouse greens last, we all know how long they last in our fridge. Not that long. Right. Yeah, exactly. And true also, I mean, for somebody like Howie with tomato plants or whatever the other starts might be, you don't get those out the door and suddenly there's nothing you can do with them,
I think that Karen, was it Linda Okogie?
Yeah. Okogie.
Yeah.
And Marissa Miller they both were talking like they were already organizing, trying to come up with something to replace.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that is. And I think probably you're right, Josh. It's best left in their hands. But if there was something we could do to facilitate that, I don't know what that is. This is I mean, I'm not a marketer.
We've certainly all talked about the reality that we are not much more able to get a message out than anybody else. But, I've thought about, for example, a temporary CSA kind of thing. I mean, if I was given a list of product that was available to me, next Saturday for a bag for pickup somewhere, I would definitely do that, and I don't know whether that's viable or how we could make it viable, but it certainly should be, I mean, there's product available. I'm sure there's demand for it. And how do you make the connection between the two?
And I think Karen's doing that. That's what what that survey is, and we do have. So I would think that I sent you all an email with the information about Nodder and Mike's session, and in the end of that email, I have to update it, but I have links. I put in my signature links to pretty much everything that's happening right now locally in Putney, as far as surveys to fill out, where you can get resources. I have to update that signature to include the data from the surveys that Karen and David were so supportive of. But I think that us messaging that out as much as we can be, each of us individually to our networks, sending out an email to everybody on your email list, saying this is what the town has put together, and this is, please check out these resource providers, see if you can use any of them. Linda is actually my CSA, and who I go through for vegetables. And she has told me that as far as the CSA, and I hope that I'm speaking correctly, my last understanding was that as far as the CSA end goes, she is fuller than she's ever been. She has more CSA clients than she's ever had before, which is excellent to hear, and probably put this lower on my radar, because I thought, oh, people are connecting. They're doing the fresh local thing. I hadn't thought of the plants and how are we getting the plants out to people.
What I read this survey, only 2/3 of the farms that produce vegetables are actually CSA farms. A third of them, and those people are probably making their money not as much off of local people, but so those are the ones I think that are more at risk. And I don't know.
How do we support them?
Yeah, I mean, I give away food. I grow so much food away, so I don't know. I don't know how we do that, but
yeah, no, I think it's. I mean, I think that people are working on it, and that's great. I think to Laura's point, communicating and trying to get that message out as best we can, and also being supportive in any way that we can of a mechanism for it would be good. I think what we don't want to encourage is individuals to be involved with we don't want 82 different people going to Linda Agioki's farm because that puts her at risk,
Right.
and I'm sure she has a distribution system, but it also, she via CSA, I think with many farmers, the CSA is a viable part of their income, but, with somebody like Linda, I'm sure that the farmer's market is also not an insignificant number for her. So even if her CSA numbers are up, if her farmer's market number is 0, that causes problems. So
the feeling I get, it's like 5%. I mean, it's like, your profit is like 5%. I mean, it's like, you lose 5% of your volume, you might as well
you're losing money.
You're not making anything.
Right.
Yeah. And the farmer's market for her, and I know for other CSA farmers, is also where they do distribution often. Exactly. So not only is it where they sell, extra loose vegetables, but it's also their distribution site, and the same with the Brattleboro farmers market. Right. They're not just often they're doing both on their circuit, sometimes even more than that.
Yeah.
So
I talked to somebody in New Hampshire. Well, actually, I had someone call the Commissioner of Agriculture in New Hampshire for me, and the reason that the farmers markets in New Hampshire are staying open is because it's their choice to do that, and in Vermont, not their choice. And I don't understand what the legislation is that's different that allows it to be their choice.
I have to say, David, I went over. I had to go to Perkins for something, and if New Hampshire is the model, I don't want to follow it. I mean, there's people driving around, nobody's wearing a mask. It's like, thanks. And, honest, and I know that's not what you're asking for, but farmers markets, I think, being an excellent example of a really bad means of getting food to people right now. I mean, you take a whole bunch of people and put them in the same place at the same time. I mean, I think that farmers obviously need a vehicle to get their product out, but I would not be a proponent of a farmer's market functioning right at the moment, unless it were really, really tightly controlled.
Yeah, and I think that's the answer, Josh. I don't think that the farmer's market, the way we have historically thought of it, should be taking place. I think that a farmer's market with new policy and new plans on how to approach this in a safe way, whether it be a drive-through. I mean, I don't know exactly how they would pull it off, but I think those conversations happening between the governor and the folks that run the farmers markets are really important, because it's a huge part of our frankly, our community health. Farmers markets are a big part of our economy in so many ways that we don't see. So, and David, to answer your question, I think it's a matter of an executive order. It's not legislation. The governor made this order, and now is as Tom said, often when these things come out, it's put out there and then they walk it back a little, they rethink it. And I think that's in process right now. He has said that he is rethinking it, but we'll see. I hope he rethinks it in time for some kind of season for our farmers.
So that leads me to the next question I had was, do we then as a community have to think about investing in our farmers if they can't make enough money to stay growing food?
Absolutely.
And so what does that look like?
Well, on a personal note, for me personally, what that looks like is and I was fortunate enough to be in a position to do this. I understand that not everybody is able to do this. It was a small sacrifice on my part, but I paid my shares up front this year, knowing full well that I'm working through a small farm, and if anybody gets sick on that farm, there's a chance that I won't get my shares, but it's an investment to me. I'm placing my faith in them, and I'm also trying to support a piece of our economy and frankly, people that have supported my family in so many ways for a long time. So not everybody can do that. So that's the piece that I did. But I think that having these conversations and thinking about how we could all support in different ways is so important.
I wonder if people are thinking of it on a community way, not an individual way, so that this lasts for a year. We have social distancing for a year, and there's a chance that these farms can't stay functioning and grow food, and we become vulnerable that way. Is there emergency money that can then support them so they can keep functioning, that we can direct to them? Are people thinking about that? And shouldn't we?
I hear you, David, because other towns have set up emergency funds for certain things. And the thought crossed my mind as well. I don't know what that looks like or how it would work, but I hear what you're saying.
So the Small Business Association is, of what I read on it, is offering a $10,000 loan and a much larger grant. And can any of that be used for agriculture? Can they apply for that? And so part of that, you can ask for forgiveness of repayment of part of that. That's wages. So you can hire people to continue to grow, and you could ask for that to be forgiven, the payback on that. Is there anything else like that? Just stuff that's going through here.
I think it depends on who you are and what you're doing. Okay. Because that $10,000 loan does not support everyone.
No, the other problem, those loans, as they're set up now, if you're a sole proprietor, you have to use more than 75% of that. In order to get it forgiven, more than 75% of it has to go into payroll. Right? Yes, quite a few of these folks have payroll, but quite a few others, Marissa probably being a good example, as far as I know, she doesn't have any payroll at all, and she's 100% dependent on the income from her farm. So she's screwed. She can't take that.
Right.
So although they are very low interest loans, but it's still a loan. Who wants to take a loan out? But
Howie said, I talked to Howie about this, and he said, we're just trying to do it all ourselves, and we're reluctant to take a loan for that exact reason, because we make so little to begin with. We can't afford to give away 1% of it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So
I think it's worth doing some more research on something like that, David.
Maybe we need to plow some land, that piece of land on top of the hill, and plant some food.
There you go.
There,
I mean,
there were town gardens historically.
Town Farm Road.
Yeah.
Almost every town has one.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I want to get into competition with our farmers though right now. I would rather see, I mean, I think that maybe connecting them through programs like Food Connects and through the Vermont Food Bank, maybe if they can't sell their food the way they're used to selling it, maybe they can sell it through programs like that that are getting food into hands of people that are in poverty. Food Connects does a wide variety of connecting local foods to schools, and our schools are still serving lunches. I mean, bless them. What they're doing is amazing. What Steve Head and his staff have done at Putney Central School is nothing short of a small miracle, and other schools in the district as well. But I just really have to commend Putney Central School because they're doing fresh food, 2 meals a day, going out on the buses to all the kids. Yeah. So, you know, they're having to source those foods and there's a possibility to connect to them.
Right.
You know, but I would, David, when you're talking to people, I'm curious if they're connected to Food Connects or the Vermont Food Bank.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, Paul certainly is. And they're through Paul, Mike. I mean, you know, these are very savvy people, obviously. Mm-hmm. And they're also, you know, I mean, if you look at many of the staples and, you know, Paul, Mike, Howie, Jack Mannix, you know, they've all been working together for 40 years, you know, so the problem is it's the larger markets that are gone. Mm-hmm. And when you take those larger markets away for anybody that's in production like Paul, he's screwed, you know? I mean, it's like he just doesn't have an avenue for it. I think they're trying to redirect it to food bank, but again, at this time of year, the perishability of those crops is just, it's really hard to manage that, so.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too, it's going to be tough is that they don't have any workforce to help them.
Yes.
Put it in the ground. You know, that's a big concern right now.
Yeah.
I mean, not only in Vermont.
Migrant workers. Yeah. No, it's a huge problem. Definitely. You know, I think messaging wise, you know, wherever we can help, I mean, it's not us, but on these sandwich boards, even on our sandwich boards, you know, buy local. I mean, just reiterate the message.
I like that.
Yeah.
You know, and that goes across. I mean, I've been trying to go to the general store and buy a sandwich as regularly as I feel comfortable doing. I mean, you know, it's just, we all got to do our part trying to support these places because otherwise they're just not going to be there, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And since you're going in, Josh, and you see it, like I have to commend them as well and the co-op on the amazing job they're doing of responding to this. I can't imagine how difficult it is for them. They've had to change their systems overnight as well and wear masks and
absolutely
and take a really hard financial hit. But I'm really proud of how they're responding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been into a store in 18 days because of Mom. I haven't been anywhere. But the comment you made earlier, Josh, about how New Hampshire isn't the example to follow, right here in my driveway on the 2 days a week where I'm working, I'm having to like step out and say, hey, stay away from my mom. You need to walk up 6 feet.
Yeah.
You know, like people, there are a percentage of people who are just not taking this seriously. Even here in this town of pretty educated and aware people.
Yeah. I was amazed. I like I said, I went over to Perkins. I went this morning because I had to pick a couple things up, and you know, one of their employees was wearing a mask. Otherwise, nobody was wearing masks. They have plastic set up around the registers, but none. I think I was the only client that was wearing a mask. And it's like, what are you idiots thinking? It's just so, I mean, it's disrespectful, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible, just like across the board. It's like, come on, people, where are you not getting the message? And that's what, and I know you were loosely referring to New Hampshire and not saying we should be like them, but, live free or die is a very good example. More or less, it comes down to live free and die. I mean, and their numbers have stayed reasonably good, but I think that's mostly luck at this stage, and at some point that's going to come back to bite them, I would imagine. But
I just want to make it clear the reason they pointed at that wasn't because of New Hampshire's example across the board. It was that New Hampshire is letting the people who go to the farmers markets sort of self-regulate and point more towards what Laura was talking about and what you were talking about. These people have been doing this for years. They're probably going to come up with a safe system on their own better than anybody else could.
yeah.
And somehow we're not letting ours do that, by legislating that they can't. So that's why I wanted to know what the difference was. And Laura, you told me it was an executive order. I get that.
I think that's very much what it is. And I think we're all on the same page, definitely. But I think it's all about the messaging. I mean, if you're not messaging, if you allow your farmers to have farmers markets, which I think is fine, and I totally agree with you, but if 9/10 of the people that are coming into your farmers market have been told that there's no problem, you're screwed.
So if you look at, Governor Sununu recently met an airplane from China that had many masks on it, and he met that airplane with a bunch of other people and was standing right next to them without a mask on himself. And so the exampling there is very different than the exampling we're getting, the modeling that we're getting here. We might be neighbors, but we are the yin and the yang, truly, not just inland. So, yeah.
All right.
Yep. Thank you.
You have anything else for us, David? I really you're doing great work. Thank you for talking to all these people and bringing this stuff to us.
Yeah.
I'm not really doing great work, but thank you for saying that.
You are.
It is. It's important. It's really important.
Call people. That's all I'm doing. And I just have the luxury of that I've known these people for 50 years. And fix their cars. And so they'll talk to me. I'm really just saying, hi, what's happening? What do you think? And then I just write it all down. I'm not really doing anything. Karen,
you are. You're listening.
Simple as it can be.
Yeah.
You know?
Sometimes that's the best thing that can be done. Sometimes it's the only thing that can be done, unfortunately.
I feel like I'm a great example of social isolation in my everyday life before this virus ever came. So it's really any change for me. I mean,
are you getting everything you need?
Well, the things that I need, I'm not getting. I can't talk about in this meeting.
I'll leave that alone.
But honestly, David,
I'm the greatest example of self-sufficiency. We have enough food for a year. Okay. Everything I can make or fix on my own. I have a community of unbelievably good and resourceful customers / friends. If I need anything, I pick up the phone and I'll call Noah and he'll bring me a pig. If I need anything that I don't have, if I need something, I'll call Josh. He'll help me with whatever. I'm totally set. I'm totally set.
Good. And, glad to hear that.
And I have to say, David, one of the reasons that I think your presence on the select board is valuable is because you're a guy who does live within and know this community. And when people see you modeling, they pay attention to that. And that's really important. And I think you can't overestimate that. For you to be able to step out in your yard and say, yo, back away from my mom, somebody take the message from that, that's a good message.
Let's hope.
It is a good message. Yeah. Right.
And she's good too, except for that she lives an isolated life and she's really struggling not having any connection with really anyone but me. And My sister can't come because she works at Vernon Green Nursing Home, and so she's totally isolated now. And so that's tough. I try to get her on the phone as much as I can, but I can see I think it sunk in about a week ago that this summer is going to be, if not the summer and this fall, going to be pretty much what we have right now.
Yeah.
And it's not going to change.
Yeah, probably going to go. It's probably going to do this.
But if we're intelligent, the way we're acting isn't going to change because we're so vulnerable still.
Yes.
Unless they
Yeah.
come up with some medical miracle shorter than it looks like could possibly come up with.
Yeah. Oh, and Josh, I know you're out and about pretty regularly, but your family is good. You have everything you need.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. No, we're I'm just so glad we live where we do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All the reasons we've been talking about.
Yeah. Truly.
Imagine doing this in an apartment in the Bronx. I mean, I just can't imagine it.
I do have
No.
one
Brutal.
question. Anna Darrow was offering up a deal where she would match any ground beef or meat that you bought from her that she produced that was left over in 2018. So I bought 30 pounds of ground beef, and I have the other 30 pounds that was her matching that I've been giving away to people that need it. But I called Hannah Pick to give the rest of it to the food shelf and got an email back saying that they were being very careful about what food they accepted. And I don't really know what to do now. It's in the freezer. I don't know if I should bring it or not bring it. I don't know what to do. So,
Hey, David, can I make a suggestion? Putney Mutual Aid has quite a few people on their list that are food insecure right now.
sure.
And there's potential that it could be circulated that way. It's
Okay.
something that I could float to them. How many pounds is it?
20 pounds of ground beef.
Okay.
So how did you get that offer and I didn't?
Yeah.
It's on Facebook. She put it out there about 10 days ago.
Oh, huh.
And it was just wonderful. Yeah. So
Okay. I'll float it to them, and I'm going to put you down as the contact person for it.
And I will, if they need more, I'll buy more and give that away too. So, whatever you
That's
need.
lovely. That's wonderful.
Anything, both of my freezers, I can't open them without stuff falling out. So if you need something.
So the other thing is, and I'm not sure, this might be bordering on inappropriate, but I know through my work that there's a need through the Brattleboro Food Works, and they do serve this community as well. So I can put you in touch with those folks as well. It's actually not my program, so it's. Yeah, I can put you in touch with them as well, and they could probably take bulk.
Okay.
So,
Awesome.
Laura, I have a question.
Yeah.
As far as the mutual aid group, right?
Mhm.
So we just found out that they have people that that need food. What else do people need? I mean, how do we know this? How do we support what they're doing?
So, I mean, essentially what they're really trying to do is connect neighbors with neighbors and kind of decentralize it so that it's more sustainable in the long run. But when people fill out the survey, they fill out where their areas of concern are or where their desire to volunteer is. And through that, they get a really great snapshot of who is food insecure. And some of that food insecurity isn't so much like some people can afford the food, they can't get to it. They have no way to actually get to the grocery store. Maybe they're in quarantine themselves. It depends. There's a variety of circumstances. I can imagine, though, that I know they're having their first volunteer meeting tonight where they're actually like coordinating with a large group of volunteers. So I can imagine that within the next few days, they'll be prepared to do things like get a good donation of meat out into the community.
Yeah. So they're in
Did-
response mode.
They are in response mode. Yeah, they still a little bit of planning mode, but and they've been in response mode the whole time. As people were coming in that were really vulnerable, they were connecting to them right away. But now they're in more of an organized response mode. Before it was a lot of Jamie and Ruby just responding on their own and trying to connect people that way.
This we all need to remember, as David was alluding to, it's going to be a long, slow process.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
those who are food insecure now are likely to be a lot less food secure a month from now. You know.
Yeah, that's the truth. It really, yeah. And I will say that this group of folks have created a pretty robust system to respond to people. So we have a lot to be proud of in this community.
Yep. I heard of one friend who who has direct deposit got their check, got their, what's it called, relief.
I got mine today. Got put in my account today.
Yeah. I had another friend that did too, and I've heard a few people are donating theirs to the food shelf, which is
Wow.
pretty darn amazing, because more than anything, what the food shelf could use right now is funding.
Yeah.
They can buy through the food bank. It's their safest means of buying food right now. And so that funding allows them to be really flexible in their storage and capacity. And
It's also the other thing about donating to them monetarily is that they have tremendous leverage with cash from the food bank.
Yes.
You know, what $1 can buy from the food bank compared to what you or I can buy on the street is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Unless you're getting a 2-for-1 beef special, then maybe.
Well,
no, that's Josh. That's exactly what it is. And the food bank has an incredible amount of storage, which the Putney Food Shelf has converted their storage space. They're using a lot more of the community building right now than they ever have before.
yeah.
And they still have things to contend with in that storage space that doesn't make it necessarily the best option for them.
Yeah.
So having cash on hand is the ideal for them.
Yeah.
Okay. And do I connect to Hannah to do that? To connect to Hannah to do that?
If you want to donate cash, just go to their website and go through. There's an option to donate, and they'll know it was you, and they'll be very, very grateful. But Hannah right now is, as many people are that are on the front lines, she's really stretched thin. So anyway, anytime we can direct somebody to the website, we're doing her a favor.
All right. My
Which is
computer's to die.
Okay. Oh, so do I hear a motion?
Yes, that was it. That was code for motion to adjourn.
And the second the code.
It has been moved and seconded to adjourn. Is there any discussion? Not hearing any discussion, we will adjourn. So
Thank you all.
thank you all.